Mr. Wally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Dave Wally. I'm Director of Public Works and Municipal Facilities. And I'm here this evening to discuss entering into the CIP, the formerly known as the Lion Hall or the Reverend Morrison Meeting House, and actually at one point it served as a town hall. Just for some brief history on the building itself. Last September, our tenant of about 50 years, the Lions, vacated the building, and we have now assumed all the property and all of its contents and maintenance included in that. The facility dates back to the 1700s, and myself and the town manager have recently taken a field trip over to a similar structure in Derry as well. They've been undergoing a more of a real restoration project of a similar design type of a church over there, and the challenges that they're experiencing with that when you're looking at a facility like this. Just to kind of give us a little bit of an idea of what we may run into. But this is a little bit different of a project than what they're doing over there, and they've been at it now for almost 12 years and spent close to $2 million, and they're about halfway done. So in October of last year, we hired Weston & Sampson to come in and do a pretty good overview of the building. We didn't get into really ripping apart walls and lifting up the floor that we know is in failure mode. And they gave us a really good professional glimpse, if you will, into what they see as going to be some real potential problems when we get into a renovation of this type of a project. And they had us anywhere in a ballpark of $1 to $3 million plus if we were to actually just level the property and build a brand new structure. Now, leveling the property is not an option. Leveling the building, it has some, like I said, some very historic value to the community, and we want to really try and preserve that look and that feel and that luster that the town has experienced for centuries. So when considering this for CIP, we feel comfortable with the $1 to $2 million range, with the guesstimate as to what the useful purpose of the building will be. We've spoken to many different groups, people, community leaders, the town manager, considering operational needs of the town and some things that we think that this facility could continue to serve the town of Londonderry moving forward into the future. We see it as something that would serve well as a community center, that would support lots of ongoing type of events in town, with the Old Homes Day celebration is certainly the most large. The Wednesday night concert on the Common is very popular, the Christmas on the Commons and whatnot, and then perhaps even serve some recreational needs as well for the department, and perhaps even the library. And depending on what groups that we either partner with or wish to utilize the facility, perhaps even the Lions Hall, the Lions have meetings there, or other types of volunteer effort groups in town. So that's where we're at with the building now, with the exception of we have now moved into bringing back Weston & Sampson. Now that we kind of have a little bit of an idea as to what we think we could use it for, we gave them some small vision as to what we would like to see conceptually on paper. What would that feel like? What would the facility kind of look like? How could we rectify some of the HVAC needs, electrical upgrades, making it a safe facility as far as life safety code is concerned, ADA compliance, and what have you. And how could we do that in a way that doesn't take away from the charm of the facility itself? And those renderings, if you will, should be back to me. I had a meeting with them last week, and we should have something back within the next 3 to 4 weeks that I can look at, I can discuss with the town manager. We can probably kick it back to them and say, well, we like this, we don't like that, enhance this a little bit more, or reel back on something as well. And then from there, really would become, a design type situation. And designing something brand new, like a SAU unit, is a lot easier than when you're dealing with a structure that is, several hundred years old. So But we believe that it's an important effort that needs to be gone through in order to save the facility. As we get into the form, I'll just speak right out that the urgency that I see is that in the short time now, we're coming up on a year that's been vacant. I already see any facility that you'll just leave vacant, you keep the heat set low and you keep the AC either low or off, you're going to see rapid decay in a facility. So when you have a structure this age, rodents move in quickly, there's some infestation going on that moves in quickly. You see paint peeling and settling, and even the floor, which is kind of what brought this all about, is settling even more. There's one particular area that I'm looking at that I thought was moving, and it clearly is after we went in there the other day. So this isn't something that we can just sit around for 5-6 years, because then we may not have to be here at the CIP process. It'll be pretty evident what we need to do with that building, and we don't want to lose it. So that's really the only urgency that I see here. But for the chair, if you want to, we can move through the.
So we'll go through our evaluation criteria here. We'll start off with an address as an emergency, public safety, or school safety need. Anybody have any input on that?
Leave that as a 5.
Yeah,
I would agree.
I would have to agree that that's going to be a 5.
I just have a general question. We didn't get to ask questions. Is there any reason why, besides just historical value, that we just can't sell this? It just seems like a money pit to me.
We could. That's certainly an option, selling it, moving on. I think that there's a lot of emotional connection to the property. It also has some some great centralized location, obviously, across from the common. And, like anything, you can sell anything, but would that be in the best interest of the community as a whole? I don't think so, unless if we could be guaranteed some sort of tenant that would partner with the town to allow it for some other, usages when we need it. I'll certainly defer to my larger boss to the right.
I'm just an elected official. I'm not your boss.
No,
He's your boss. I think part of it is it's on town property. It was relocated there. It's Reverend Morrison's original meeting house. Finding a buyer would want to dismantle it. And I think that based on the feedback we've gotten from those people who follow history in the town, it would be strongly opposed. The council's looking to move it to the ballot this year.
Okay, that was my next question.
To see what we, at least take it through the budget process to figure out if we can move it to the ballot for this year and have that discussion. So, and that's up to the council and the budget committee what they want to do.
Okay.
The other thing, Mr. Chair, I will say is this, in terms of, do we want to just retain it for the history and because, selling it is not an option? I think, there's some people who I think there's a lot of people who feel that way. Separately, I would point out a couple of different things. One is, in the coming, 5 to 10 years, I see opportunities to enhance our recreation offerings. We don't have any space for recreation staff right now. As, we went through the SAU negotiations last year. In fact, the SAU is going to kick us back a couple of extra offices because we are out of office space at Town Hall. We have a part-time recreation director right now. I certainly foresee a growing need to staff up the recreation department and enhance the offerings that we have available to the community. I also see a need for community space. That's something that's been talked about at a lot of town council meetings recently. There is no shortage of groups who want to reserve space for their meetings in public spaces. And I think that retaining the Lions Hall would certainly enhance our ability to do that.
Since this is so loved by people, is there any chance that we could fundraise for that somehow instead of raising taxes?
There's always a way to fundraise for things. I mean, part of the problem with the Lions Hall is that it was maintained by, and I mean this in a kind way, by amateurs for a number of years. When we replaced the floor a number of years ago, and people wonder why we continue to maintain the building. We own the building. You know, that we had a leasing and we did have a lease, but we own the building. We have to keep it being safe. When we pulled the floor up, it was all being held up by literal tree trunk timbers with the bark still on it. I mean, and then someone was kind enough to go under the building after, most recently. And we wish we probably would have known this before, but apparently, and probably because of all the rain we're getting this year, there's literally a river running underneath the building. So it's, the footings are not holding. If we don't, fundraising would be a great option if we had time. I don't know how much time we have, because if the floor gives, the walls come in, and that's the end. So we need to have a serious discussion, with the council and the budget committee about, like, what do we do? And so it's a great option, but I think time is working against us.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, I do love it's a great space. It's an excellent location, and it definitely meets the future needs of the town and such. And I respect the historical aspect of that. I think that's important for a community of our size to have historic buildings that that has the opportunity to tell the town's story. And I know that you did the estimates of kind of replacing it, which is not something that we want to entertain, but is that like, I guess, even if we were to renovate it to to current standards to meet all safety and other types of building codes and such, for a 8-hour a day how or location that would serve the town, is the structure of the building, would we be here 10 years saying we've got a lot of use from this building and it's just not holding up?
No, we don't see anything too dire like that. Now, if we leave the building sitting vacant for some time and I go in every once in a while, we'll have a staff member go in every once in a while and make sure that we catch anything, if anything is really going wrong. But the initial impression that the very different disciplines of engineers that we had look at it believe that this is a structure that is definitely worth saving. It's certainly not in the condition of the one that we previewed. If we had that kind of a status, then I'd probably be looking at different options. But the Lions, did some things that were good and some things that were just, they just, some of the materials used inside was T111 siding instead of having chair rail and millwork. They used T111 siding and painted it. So it took away from some of its original charm and character, but they made it work. The floor will be addressed. They've already come up with a few ways to do that. They don't see the need to prop up the building and jack it up and then put, a concrete foundation under it. There are some parts on the back that they think would be best served to remove, so that a more modern addition could go on the back, but it would stay within the envelope and not change the physical appearance from the street. And therefore, things like the kitchen, the HVAC stuff, water service, instead of then, the well that they have, and all the things that are really the expensive stuff, if you will, to a facility, upgraded electrical and everything, that could all be new and in the back. And that, when we started talking in that kind of way, they really thought that would help keep the costs down, because you're not having to deal so much with all the old part of the structure. So we can have modern new in the back for the mechanical stuff, bathrooms and things of that nature, and perhaps even add to that. I don't want to give away a little bit too much of what we're talking about doing, because we got to make sure that it's possible too. But ways that makes the facility more usable and user-friendly to the different events that we have over in that area. And again, try to actually restore some of the charm and some of the millwork and some of the looks. There is some tin ceiling in what we're contemplating as a front office space instead of then the mechanical room right now, and the old vault and safe that's there, that's in still great shape, that could, and some exposed brick inside that we think that could really bring back a lot of the look to the building. But we don't want to go so far as getting into like L-chip prints and things like that, because from my own experience and the town manager's experience, and even the folks that we just toured with, there's a lot of, tangibles that come with those types of monies and things that you got to do and materials you got to use, and that drives the cost astronomically high.
Yeah.
So we're trying to find that nice medium, middle ground between historical charm, preserve the building itself for the community, and make it a user-friendly space in modern-day needs of ADA compliance and things of that nature, so.
Yeah, and what we'll try to do at the council level is try to come up with, a number and something that's palatable to the voters. That's not saying, we need $10 million, maybe we need, $1 million. I'm just throwing numbers around and just say, this is what it's going to take, and this is, I just came from a pickleball meeting, people are looking for the town to have more recreational services and everything.
Great place for
And it's a centralized place, much like the SAU would be a centralized place. Coming to the middle of town just seems to work. I mean, Concerts on the Common has taken off. We'll probably need more support for that going into the future. People like things, they want them to get better. So that's the difficult part about this facility. It is so visible. But we have one more opportunity to do it correctly and not Band-Aid it. So, but we have to have a serious conversation during budget process about what does that look like? And what will the voters support? So that's the hard part.
And I think that's why we, after much discussion with the town manager, we think that the conceptuals that we'll be bringing forward will really help bring that vision.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about it like this, you start jumping all around, and really it's more about, what is this going to look like? What will it feel like? That type of space, how can we use it? And I think the discussion is going to be very robust, and there'll be a lot of excitement behind it. And people, it'll quickly show the town that, wow, this is really important to do, so.
Thank you.
Anything else? Go on to the, I believe we were on addresses a deficiency in a service or a facility. You can't, that's a 5. You can't use the facility right now, so.
No.
I think we'd all agree that's a 5. Provides capacity needed to serve existing population or future growth.
It's definitely a 5.
That's a 5 as well, I think in particular for future growth of some of the stuff the town manager and Mr. Wally just spoke on.
I think the results on long-term cost savings, that should actually be a 5, because with weather and wear and tear, this building very well is deteriorating quickly.
Well, I can tell you right now that the largest cost savings you'll see is if we, can modernize it to some extent. The heat loss in that building is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
it's,
It retains heat.
you're heating a little bit of the outside when the
Yep.
heat's on, so.
So, it sounds like we want to put that at a 5.
I would put that as a 5.
Okay with that? Supports job development and an increased tax base. I think we did talk a little bit a few minutes ago about adding potential spots or increasing their recreation department, so that'd be a little bit of job development. Increased tax base. I don't know that it would increase the tax base necessarily.
At a 1,
Yeah,
what's there?
I would agree with that. Leverages non-property tax revenues. I would agree with that.
Yeah, they're looking to potentially maybe rent out space occasionally, so
Yeah.
we'd have small revenues come in, right?
Yeah, that area was difficult for me to kind of put a number on, because again, not having a very complete picture as
Of
to.
what it's gonna be.
What's the
Yeah.
useful purpose? I think the hall is obvious, but to what extent does the town want to get into the business of being a landlord or being, you
Yeah.
know, we're gonna have, you know, birthday parties there, bingo nights, you know, we're gonna need somebody to manage this. Do we want to use the pavilion for, you know, other avenues? But I do see that there's definitely some revenue there. I mean, we currently kind of already are in the business with the senior center, and as was the Lions Hall prior to. So I think that there's something definitely there, but to quantify that,
Yeah.
you know, I think it would be an offsetting revenue stream to support the operational cost of the building.
Yeah.
But for a tax revenue stream, it's
Yeah.
tough
We
to
can
gauge.
definitely leave it as a
You're
one.
gonna take some in, but you're gonna spend some out to manage it. and-
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's
So-
gonna wash.
Right.
Gotcha.
Sounds like we're all pretty good with the one.
Okay.
And then, matching funds available for a limited time.
My rationale there was, initially was, you know, again, depending upon, you know, how much of a push would there be about, we want to bring it back to 1769. You know, you could go L-chip. I really don't think L-chip is the way to go with this project. But when I was talking with Weston and Sampson, there are still some small grants here and there that, you know, you could, and depending, again, like I was talking about on the back of the building, you know, if we do get a little bit of green and put some solar panels that are on the back of the addition that you still won't be able to see it, you know, that there is money available for stuff like that.
Like a two is pretty appropriate. So puts us at 24, and CIP priority assignment. Any
So
input?
one to me.
Yeah,
One.
seems like it's a one.
Yeah, for the health and safety of the building, and let alone if we want to ever use it in the future, it seems like it's more of an immediate need than
I would agree.
taking it down the road.
I would agree. All right. Okay, so we are through the Lions Hall here.